It was a cold morning in New York. The sun was shining, but the air felt heavy. Jack Evans sat at his desk in a tall office building, staring at his computer screen. His inbox was full, but his mind was somewhere else. His phone buzzed quietly. Next to his coffee cup, the screen lighting up once again. It was Mom calling. Jack glanced at the phone side and pressed decline. It wasn't the first time. In fact, it had become his habit. Whenever his mother or father tried to reach him, he would ignore the call. Sometimes he told himself he was too busy. Other times, he simply didn't feel like talking. He convinced himself that his parents didn't understand him anymore. They still treated him like the little boy from his small hometown, not the man he had become in the city. "Why do they keep calling?" he mumbled, brushing his brown hair back and shaking his head. He remembered the last time he had spoken to his parents. It was 6 months ago, during a rushed phone call. His mother had been telling him about his father's health getting worse, but Jack was distracted. He had a meeting and told her he would call back. He never did. Now, they kept calling every day. His mom, then his dad, sometimes late at night. But Jack ignored them, always telling himself, "I'll call tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. That morning, after ignoring the call, Jack stood up and walked to the window. His office looked over the busy city. Cars, people, noise. Everything moved fast, just like his life. He felt important here. People respected him. Back home, he felt like a child. So, he stayed away. "Your parents called again?" his coworker Melissa asked as she walked past. "Yeah, same old. Probably just checking if I'm eating well," Jack replied, forcing a laugh. Melissa smiled, not knowing the real story. Jack didn't talk about his family much. He had left his small town in Ohio almost 10 years ago and never looked back. He told himself he had outgrown it, but now, his mother's calls had become more frequent. Jack finished work late that evening, as usual. By the time he returned to his apartment, it was nearly midnight. He kicked off his shoes, sat on the couch, and turned on the TV. His phone buzzed again. Voicemail from Mom. He rolled his eyes but opened it anyway. "Jack, please, call us. Your father isn't well. I'm scared. Please, Jack, we miss you." The voice was weak, broken. It didn't sound like the strong woman who had raised him. Jack felt a strange feeling inside his chest. Guilt. But he brushed it away quickly. "I'll call in the morning," he whispered to himself, turning up the volume of the TV to drown out the silence in his apartment. But morning didn't come as he expected. At 3:00 a.m. The phone rang again. Jack woke up, annoyed, reaching for the phone. His mom was calling. He almost pressed decline again, but something stopped him. He answered. "Mom," but it wasn't his mother's voice. It was his Aunt Rose. "Jack, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but your father passed away tonight." The world around Jack stopped. "What? Your mom tried calling you so many times. He was asking for you, asking if you'd call him." He waited. Jack felt cold, numb. I didn't know. I didn't know it was that bad." His aunt's voice cracked. "You didn't want to know," and with that, she hung up. Jack sat there in the dark, holding his phone like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Tears filled his eyes, but he couldn't cry. Not yet. He looked at his phone screen. Missed calls, voicemails, messages, all from his mom, all ignored. Suddenly, the expensive apartment, the fancy job, the city lights, none of it mattered. He had ignored his parents for years, and now, he had lost his father. Forever. Jack stayed frozen until the sun came up. When the morning light touched his face, he finally whispered, "What have I done?" But the nightmare wasn't over, because 1 week later, Jack Evans would lose his mother too, and then, regret would be the only thing he had left. Jack sat at the small table in his parents' old kitchen. Everything felt smaller than he remembered. The walls, once bright and warm, now seemed dull and empty. His mother's favorite curtains hung silently at the window. Dust had gathered on the wooden shelves. The house smelled like old memories, and Jack felt like a stranger inside his own childhood home. It had been 3 days since his father's funeral. Jack barely spoke to anyone at the service. People looked at him with sad eyes. But he couldn't face them. He couldn't face himself. His mother didn't attend. She was too weak. Jack hadn't seen her yet. He was afraid. He thought about all the calls he had ignored. His father's final days, waiting for his voice. Waiting for a son who never called. Jack wondered if his father had died thinking his son didn't care. That thought hurt more than anything. Jack stood up slowly. His heart felt heavy. His Aunt Rose came into the kitchen. "She's awake, Jack," she said softly. "She's asking for you." Jack nodded, but his legs didn't want to move. He forced himself down the hallway toward his parents' bedroom. His heart pounded harder with every step. When he entered, the sight broke him. His mother, once strong and full of life, lay on the bed like a shadow of herself. Her skin was pale. Her cheeks were sunken. She looked fragile. Too fragile. "Mom," Jack whispered, his voice shaking. She turned her head slowly and smiled, though her eyes held deep sadness. "You came. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." Tears rolled down Jack's face. He dropped to his knees beside the bed, holding her frail hand in both of his. "I should have answered your calls. I should have come sooner." She brushed her thin fingers across his cheek, her touch light as air. "I knew you'd come, even if it was late." Her words pierced Jack's soul. Even after he ignored her for years, she still believed in him. "I missed you every day," she whispered. "I missed you too, Mom. I thought I had time." She closed her eyes for a moment, as if too tired to keep them open. Jack looked around the room. His father's jacket still hung behind the door. His parents' wedding photo sat dusty on the shelf. Memories filled the room, but Jack felt like he was seeing it all for the first time. "I didn't know Dad was that sick." "He wanted to hear your voice. He asked about you every day," she said softly. "I told him you were busy, but you loved him." Jack's heart shattered. "I should have called." His mother smiled weakly. "I forgive you," Jack cried. For the first time in years, he let himself cry like a child. He held her hand and begged her not to leave him too, but deep inside he knew. She was dying. Aunt Rose entered quietly, placing a cool cloth on his mother's forehead. Jack stayed at her side all day, telling her stories from his life in the city. He spoke about things he had never shared before. His struggles, his fears, his regrets. For the first time, he let his mother back into his heart as the sun set. She whispered one last thing. "Don't waste your life, Jack, chasing things that don't matter." "I won't, Mom. I promise." She smiled faintly, then closed her eyes, and just like that, Jack Evans lost his mother to Dot in 1 week. He had lost both his parents at the funeral. Jack stood in front of the small crowd. His voice cracked as he tried to speak. "I ignored my parents for years. I thought I was too busy. I thought I had time, but I was wrong. I ran away from love. And now, it's too late." His tears fell, not from weakness, but from truth. People in the crowd cried with him. After the funeral, Jack returned to the empty house. He sat in the living room, surrounded by silence. He looked at the old family photos on the wall. He picked up his mother's favorite cookbook. He found his father's worn-out baseball glove. Memories. That was all he had left. Jack realized something important that day. Life moves fast. People don't wait forever, and regret is the heaviest burden to carry. For years, Jack thought success meant distance, but now, in the empty silence of his childhood home, he understood the truth. He had been wrong, and there was no way to fix it. Jack stayed in that house for days, replaying every missed call in his mind, and every voicemail he never answered, each one a reminder, each one a goodbye he didn't hear. He wished for just one more call, but it would never come. The house felt colder now. Jack stayed inside for days, barely eating, barely sleeping. Every corner reminded him of his parents. Their voices echoed in his mind like ghosts. He sat on the couch where his mother used to knit sweaters. He stood in the garage where his father taught him how to ride a bike. Every memory felt like a knife inside his heart. Jack picked up his phone and scrolled through the old missed calls. "Mom, Dad, Mom, Dad." Over and over. He opened his voicemails and played them one by one. His mother's gentle voice, his father's deeper, tired voice. Each message was a small reminder of love that he ignored. Jack, it's Mom again. Just checking if you're okay. Call us back, son. It's your dad. I know you're busy. Just wanted to say we're proud of you, Jack. Please call. Jack dropped the phone and buried his face in his hands. He cried until there were no tears left. He knew that no success, no amount of money, no big city job could fill the hole in his heart. He had traded family for ambition, and now he was alone. One morning, after many sleepless nights, Jack decided to go outside. The small town felt frozen in time. Nothing much had changed since he left. People nodded silently as he walked past. They knew what he had lost. He felt their sympathy, but it only deepened his shame. At the local diner, the same old woman still served breakfast. Jack remembered sitting there as a child, sharing pancakes with his mom and dad. He sat down in a corner booth and ordered a coffee. A man approached him. It was Mr. Harris, his father's old friend. Mind if I sit? The man asked. Jack nodded silently. Mr. Harris looked at him carefully. Your dad was a good man. I know, Jack whispered. He talked about you all the time. Every time I saw him, he said, Jack's doing big things in New York. He was proud of you, son. Very proud. Jack's eyes filled with tears again. I never called him back. I ignored him. He died waiting for me, Mr. Harris shook his head softly. You're wrong. Jack looked up, confused. Your dad knew you loved him. You were his boy. Parents forgive easily, Jack. What hurts more is when children don't forgive themselves. Jack sat in silence. Make peace with yourself, son. That's what your mom and dad would have wanted. After Mr. Harris left, Jack sat alone in the diner. His coffee went cold. Could he forgive himself? Did he deserve forgiveness? He wasn't sure. Later that afternoon, Jack returned to the house and went up to the attic. He hadn't been there since he was a teenager. Dust filled the air as he pushed open the door. Old boxes, broken toys, and forgotten memories were everywhere. He found a box labeled Jack's Things. Opening it felt like opening his past. Inside were photo albums, school drawings, birthday cards from his parents, and his old baseball cap. Tears fell from Jack's eyes as he realized how much they had saved. His parents had kept every small piece of him. He found a letter at the bottom of the box. It was from his father. It was written years ago but never sent. Jack unfolded the letter with shaking hands. Dear Jack, I know you're busy. I know you're building your life. But I wanted to write you this letter in case I never get the chance to say it. I'm proud of you. I always have been. I remembered the day you left for New York. You were scared, but you tried to hide it. I knew, because I was scared too. Scared you'd forget us. But your mom said to let you go. She said, love doesn't pull back. It pushes forward. We missed you every day. But we understood, if you're reading this letter, maybe I'm not around anymore. That's okay. Don't be sad for too long. Just remember one thing. You were always loved, Jack. Don't run from family. Don't run from love. Come home sometimes. Love, Dad. Jack clutched the letter to his chest. For the first time, he let himself say the words out loud. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry, Mom. I love you. The attic grew quiet. Jack stayed there until the sun set, holding the letter like it was the only thing keeping him alive. He realized then that regret wasn't the end of his story. He had lost his parents, but maybe, just maybe, he could find himself again. Jack stood up and looked around the attic, now filled with the soft orange glow of the setting sun, and in that moment, he knew what he needed to do next. He needed to forgive himself, and he needed to find a new way to live, one where love came first, just like his parents had always taught him. Jack stood in the middle of the empty living room, holding his father's letter in one hand and his phone in the other. He stared at the screen, then powered it off. He no longer needed the endless emails, work calls, and social media notifications. For the first time in years, none of that mattered. His parents were gone, but their love was n single quotes t.it lived in every photo on the wall, in every childhood memory stored in the attic, in every recipe his mother cooked and every bedtime story his father told him. Jack sat down and looked around the house, their house. His house. I have to fix this, he whispered to himself. Not just the house, but himself. For the first time, Jack admitted how lonely he had become. In chasing success, he had lost connection. Not just with his parents, but with himself. He stood up and started cleaning. It felt strange, but somehow right. He cleaned the dust from the shelves. He folded the curtains his mom loved so much. He washed the dishes that had sat untouched since the funeral. Every small task made him feel closer to his parents. At night, he slept in his old childhood bed. It didn't feel sad anymore. It felt like home. Each morning, Jack walked through the town. He greeted the neighbors he once ignored. People invited him in for coffee, and this time, he said yes. He listened to their stories. They told him how his father used to help fix their cars, how his mother used to bake pies for church gatherings. Slowly, Jack started understanding who his parents really were, not just as his parents, but as people. And in learning about them, he learned about himself. One afternoon, Jack sat on the back porch, looking at the garden his mother once tended. Flowers still tried to bloom through the weeds. Aunt Rose joined him. "You planning to stay long?" she asked. Jack thought for a moment. "I think I need to." She nodded softly. "They'd like that. I wasted too much time, Aunt Rose. I kept running. I thought distance made me stronger. It made you lonelier," she said gently. Jack nodded. "I want to change, but I don't know how." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Start small. One day at a time." Jack looked at the garden. Weeds everywhere. But underneath, the roots of his mother's flowers were still there. "Maybe I'll start here." And so he did. Every morning, Jack worked in the garden. He pulled weeds. He watered the soil. He planted new seeds. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't fast. But slowly, the garden began to look alive again. People in town noticed a change in Jack too. He volunteered at the community center. He visited his old school and spoke to the kids about chasing dreams, but also about not forgetting where you came from. Jack realized he wasn't just healing the house, he was healing himself. One evening, Jack sat by the fireplace, holding a framed picture of his parents. "I wish you could see me now," he whispered, but deep inside, he felt they already did. Jack made a decision. He would stay in his hometown, at least for now. He wanted to live a life his parents would be proud of, not through big city success, but through kindness, connection, and love. He reopened his father's old workshop. He didn't know much about fixing cars, but Mr. Harris offered to teach him. People brought in their vehicles, and slowly, Jack learned. Every scratch of a wrench, every oil stain on his hands felt like a small connection to his father. In the evenings, he cooked his mother's recipes. He burned the chicken at first, but he smiled. She would have laughed. He invited neighbors over. The house wasn't empty anymore. It was full. Full of laughter. Full of life. Full of love. Jack realized something important. He hadn't just lost his parents. He had almost lost himself. But now, he was finding his way back. Not to the person he used to be, but to someone new, someone better, someone his parents would be proud of. And this time, he promised himself wouldn't ignore love again. Not ever. Summer came softly to Jack's hometown. The flowers in his mother's garden had finally bloomed again. Bright colors filled the small backyard, and Jack stood silently among them, listening to the gentle hum of bees and the warm whisper of the breeze. The garden was alive, and so was he. Jack had changed. Months had passed since his parents' funerals, but the weight of regret still sat quietly in his heart. It no longer crushed him, but it stayed, like a gentle reminder, a lesson carved into his soul. One morning, Jack walked to the small cemetery at the edge of town. He carried fresh flowers, his mother's favorites, and a small wooden carving he had made in his father's workshop. It wasn't perfect, but it was made with his hands. To their graves, Jack knelt down. "I miss you both every day." He placed the flowers gently on his mother's grave. Then, he set the wooden carving beside his father's name. I'm sorry for the years I wasted. I thought I had time." He looked up at the sky, blinking back tears. "But I promise you now, I'll live differently." He sat there for a long time, speaking softly, telling them about his days, his fears, his hope. For the first time, he felt like they were listening, not through a phone call he ignored, but through the silence of love that never left. As Jack stood up to leave, he whispered one final promise: "I'll never run from love again." Walking back into town, Jack felt lighter, not because the pain was gone, but because he had stopped hiding from it. At the local community center, children ran up to him. They called him Mr. Jack. He laughed as they dragged him to see their latest drawings and stories. He encouraged them, listened to them. He gave them the attention he once denied his own parents. He worked in his father's old workshop every afternoon. He fixed cars. Not fast, not perfect, but honest. People trusted him, not because of his skills, but because of his heart. Each evening, he cooked simple meals and shared them with neighbors. The once silent house now echoed with voices, laughter, and life. One evening, Aunt Rose joined him on the porch. "You've changed," she said softly. Jack smiled. "I'm just finding my way back." She nodded. "Your parents would be proud." "I hope so. I know so." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the hills. At night, Jack sometimes still dreamed of his parents. In those dreams, they weren't sick or sad. They were laughing, sitting in the garden, waiting for him to come home. He always did. And every morning, he woke up, determined to live better than yesterday. Not for money, not for fame, but for love, for connection, for family. Jack learned the hardest truth of all: time doesn't wait. Calls unanswered can't be returned. Moments ignored are gone forever. But life, even broken, can be rebuilt. And so he rebuilt, one small act of love at a time. Years later, people in town would tell stories of Jack Evans, not the man who left, but the man who came back, the man who fixed cars, helped neighbors, and smiled like someone who had known real loss, and chose to love anyway. At the edge of town, in the little house with the flower garden, Jack kept his parents' memory alive, not through sadness, but through love, the kind that answers every call, the kind that never leaves a voice unheard, the kind that says, "I'm here, always." And in that promise, Jack Evans finally found peace. The end.